Good morning and welcome to yet another topic in the series. Today we talk about careers and certifications in cybersecurity. It's an important one. We don't just go to school to learn. We in the end want to land ourselves a job and maybe even build a career around this topic. So knowing how industry hires, knowing what qualifications are needed is a good skill to have. So let me start by putting one thing out there that is maybe the most important lesson that we'll cover this week. And that is finding your first job will be the hardest job you ever have. It is not easy to find your first job, even in a discipline like cybersecurity where there is such a disconnect, a surplus of positions compared to the people who can fill them. It is very hard to break into the industry. In part, that is because people who are hiring look for people with experience. And if you come out of school, you don't have experience, or at least not a whole lot of it. The other part is that as the discipline is maturing, we start developing an understanding of what it is that we need in people. Until now, we really don't need it, so we don't know that. So that means that we're shooting for the stars. So we're really looking for the best of the best, and then hopefully they can do what we need them to do. And unfortunately, that means that during hiring processes, we often see questions being asked that are way past the level where the position would fill you. If you're going to be primarily operating, say, as an information security analyst, triaging IDS alerts, having to go through a 6-hour coding challenge and a 4-hour CTF may be a little too much. But industry is learning, we're getting to that. And even though there might be some of these hurdles, don't be dissuaded by that. You will have to work for it, that for sure. But there are jobs out there that hire even people fresh out of college. As you do this, keep in mind that a job does not make a career. If you want a career in this cybersecurity field, you'll have to plan for your jobs. Now, you can't always plan in detail, but it does mean that you can be a little selective, at least at the beginning of your job search, as to what positions you are willing to take and which ones you are not to take. Because a job does not make a career, but it can hurt one. And that's an important one to keep in mind. You don't necessarily want to end up as someone stocking shelves at the supermarket or being a sales rep at, let's say, the local GameStop, if what you're looking to do is become a cybersecurity engineer. Everybody needs money, that's understandable, and absolutely, if you have to take the job in order to exist, take the job. I'm not saying not to take the job, but if you can choose between, it's not always the most fun job that's going to help you boost your career. Everyone's got to earn their stripes. Now, job searching is hard work, and that means that you need to make yourself a schedule and think of it as a job itself. So where I said finding a job will be the hardest job you ever have, and I mean that, finding a job is a job and you should treat it as such, which means you start your day at 8:30 in the morning, and you have a schedule laid out for you and you stick to it. Keep in mind that you will most likely have to send out dozens, if not more than that, of applications. And you may have to go to a half dozen to a dozen of interviews before you even get an offer. And you cannot do that if you're improvising all day long. So let's take a look. For example, if you're looking for your first job, start your day at 8:30 in the morning on the clock, as if there is a boss looking over your shoulder and making sure you put in your hours. And maybe start by reviewing your email box and respond to every related relevant email you receive. And when you set up an email, don't make it happybunny123@gmail.com. Make it something that looks professional. If you don't mind, use the Adelphi email address. It stays active with you. It is a professional looking email address. A .edu domain is a good domain to get email from. use it. You have it. And maybe separate out your business-related, your job searching email from all the other email you're getting. So every morning should start with that. No one should ever have to wait more than a couple of hours for you to reply to an email, especially if you're looking for a job. Remember, they're helping you. You're not there to help them at that point. Then maybe spend an hour, hour and a half reviewing online job ads. Keep a spreadsheet with running lists of employers who are hiring. Figure out where they are located, what job titles they're hiring for, and what qualifications they're looking for. At this point, you're just making your list. You're not necessarily applying yet, but you should be spending some serious time doing that so that you know what the marketplace looks like. And then it's time for a break. Force yourself to have a break. Get up, move away from your computer, go outside, whatever it may be, but be back in about 15 minutes. You don't have all day after all. 10:45. Now you start writing cover letters for each position as well as tailoring your resumes for each of those positions. There is no such thing as your resume that fits everything. Always look at the terminology being used in the job ads and match that terminology in your resume and your cover letter. Make sure that when you write a letter, it's relevant to the position that you're looking for. And you want to apply at that point. You want to take your time to fill out those applications, maybe 2 or 3 a day at most. But you also want to keep track of each application. And that means that for each application, you know when you sent it, you know how you sent it, but you also know exactly what version of your resume and what version of your cover letter you send there. Because in the end, you're going to hopefully be invited to interview. And it would be nice if you still have the right combination of documents with you. Once that's done, lunch break. Everyone needs to eat. It's a job, so you do too. You get a half hour. After lunch, check your email. Respond to inquiries. Don't keep your email open. Turn off all notifications. You don't need to get back to people within 5 minutes. But you do need to get with them in a couple hours. Schedule your time to do that. Notifications become distractions. Don't let yourself get distracted. You have a job to do. Once you're done with that, it's time for personal development, your afternoon. You can only focus exclusively on writing and reading for so long. Time to get some practice. Every day, no matter what you do, code. Don't care what language you code in, don't care what you're doing. Start going through HackerRank and all the other services that are out there. But keep your skills nicely close to heart. If you decide you're going to be a Python person, do Python. If you want to do C, do C. If you want to do both, do both. It does not matter, as long as you get your mileage in on writing code, debugging it, and testing it. As you're doing that, also keep notes on the things that you didn't know or the things that you run into trouble with, because you'll need those notes later on. After you've done that for an hour, hour and a half, snack time. Give yourself a little cup of coffee, make a cookie or two, doesn't really matter. But again, get up, get away from your computer, walk outside, whatever you need to do, and then come back to work. In this case, since you're looking for a cybersecurity position, coding isn't all we do. It's actually not even a large part of what we do in most cases, but it is the skill on which all other skills are based. So at this point, you'll start playing CTFs. There are plenty of free open source CTFs out there. Pico CTF, the Sans Holiday Hacks. Be a little creative. You can download them as virtual machines. And again, spend an hour, hour and a half every day doing this. And again, keep notes of what worked and what didn't work. After that, time for another email check, respond to inquiries and a break. And now study. 4:30 till 6. Review your notes, figure out what you didn't know, learn things that you didn't know, learn new things. It doesn't even matter if it's directly related to the position at hand, although it would be nice if it is. And then lastly, around 6 o'clock, 6:30, time for your last email check of the day. Time to turn off your technology and leave. The only exception that you might see to that is many organizations, OWASP, ISC Square chapters, ISACA chapters, whatever it may be, organize meetups, often in the early evenings. They're mostly free to attend. Go to them, network, make sure that people know who you are, make sure they recognize your face, and start listening to them more than talking to them. Listen what kind of positions they're hiring for, how much money they're paying, look at what other people look like, and match what they do. Now, I am a hiring manager, and that means I have a position posted. I'm looking to fill it. I want the best possible candidate I can get for the money I have to offer. It means that if I'm going to post a position, I expect to see probably well over 100 applications for each individual position, and that means I do not have a lot of time to filter through your resumes. Your resume is your sales document. It is meant to capture my attention in a positive way. Realistically, by the time that I've opened your resume, downloaded it, pulled it from my email, however it gets to me, I might spend 5 whole seconds looking at your resume. That's it, because I have another 100 to go. That sounds mean, and a lot of what you'll see here in these next couple of slides sounds really mean and heartless, but that's the reality of the situation. So I will spend about 5 seconds to look at your resume. That's it. If I see what I like, and only then, I might consider reading your cover letter. Maybe, maybe not. Even if I don't read it, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't write it. The decision is mine to make, not yours. If I read your letter and I see what I liked, maybe I'll call you for an interview. When I call you for an interview, I'm typically not going to give you a lot of time. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, especially now in the time of social distancing, where it's just a matter of coming onto a video call. And I'm not going to give you options. I'm going to tell you I want to interview you tomorrow at 11:15 a.m. You'd better be ready for that. So be careful with how you book your time. You want to be flexible with that. If we did okay during that interview, I will research you, because you made it past my first few filters. So that means that I might be interested in actually hiring you. So what does that mean? I'm going to look for social media. How did you show up? What am I seeing when I search your social media? I'm going to look for news headlines. Anything I can get my hands on is fair game. Your job is to make sure that I do not find surprises. If there was anything in there, make sure I know about it before I find it. And the interview is typically when you would do that. If I still like you, I might make you an offer. And at that point, we can have a conversation in more detail about compensation, about terms, about all of those things. But all of the other things have to happen first. Now, a couple things. Typos are unforgivable. And I mean that. I will reject a single application for a single typo. Don't have typos. There's just no reason for them. All the software we use can do typo checking. If you send me resumes with typos, it means that you have not done a good job proofreading what you wrote. And that means that you don't care enough to work for me. That means I'm not interested in you. Not a single typo. And keep in mind that the resumes and the letters are meant to convince me to hire you, which means that you should make a narrative that convinces me why you benefit me. Don't start your letter by saying, oh, I would benefit so much from working for your company. That's not what I'm looking for. I am looking for someone who can help me out, not the other way around. The other way around would be an internship position. Now, as you start building resumes, they must be predictable. I personally don't care for fancy layout. We're not hiring for a graphics design position. Fancy layouts distract me. They slow me down. I don't want to be slowed down. I have 5 seconds to spend on this. So, what do I need to know? I need to know what your job qualifications are. Note that I did not start by saying I need to know who you are. At this point, I don't care yet who you are. I need to know what your job qualifications are. Why do you believe you could bring value to me? And that means I need to know, did you go to school? And if so, where? What did you do there? Maybe even how well that you did, overall GPA. I really don't care about your individual transcript at this point. And the GPA, I might care about for your first job. After that, it really doesn't matter anymore. What skills do you have? Skills are at least as important, maybe even more important than your formal education. Do you hold any industry certifications? Unlikely at this point. You don't have any professional experience yet. So most certifications need that experience. We'll talk about in video 2. And did you hold any other relevant jobs prior to applying to me? So not just any jobs, relevant jobs. And do you have an eye for detail? No typos, be consistent, be neat. Eye for detail, I mean things like, are you ending a sentence with a period? If you're using bullets, are you consistent with your indentation? Are you ending each bullet item with a period or a semicolon? Do you do that consistently? It might not sound like a lot, but there are so many resumes, you need to stand out, and you need to stand out in a positive way. Otherwise, I move on to the next one. Now, if this still looks good, now I might look at your name and figure out if you move on to my next round. As you write these resumes and these cover letters, it's okay to make yourself look good. That's what they are there for. These are sales documents in which you sell yourself. But you can never ever bend the truth. Whatever you write down has to be 100% true. Don't bend it, don't push those boundaries. I will find out, and when I do find out, I will not trust you anymore, and I will not hire you anymore. It is as simple as that. And lastly, I have seen too many resumes where I had to go hunting to figure out how to contact you. Not doing that. If I can't figure out how to reach you, and what I want to know is what is your email address, what is your phone number, maybe a LinkedIn profile if you have it, but that's about it. Anything else is optional. I'm not going to go search for them. Cover letters. Not everyone requires a cover letter. I like a cover letter, even though often I might not really read it, but it does tell me something about the candidate's writing abilities. And so much in business communications is the ability to write. So, if you are asked to provide a cover letter, make me think it's original and written just for me. Even if that's not the case, I still have to get that impression from it. I mentioned this before, make sure to keep track of what cover letters you sent and who you sent them to, and when you sent them. In that cover letter, I want to believe that you researched my organization, that you know what position I'm hiring for and why you are qualified for it. It's nothing as off-putting as having a cover letter that has nothing to do with the position, or maybe even has the name of a different organization still in the template. The end. I'm not looking further. Make me believe that you are awesome, but never bend the truth. Keep it brief though. I mean, I'm not looking to a book. Maybe 3/4 of a page, maybe a page. More than that, that requires effort, and I'm not going to flip a page. Always be honest. Cybersecurity is a field in which your personal reputation is everything. If you damage that reputation, you will be no longer working in this field. Simple as that. And be perfect. No typos, clean grammar, etc. If you get interviewed, be on time. 2 minutes late is still late. And if you're late, you'd better be missing a limb. You better be in cuffs, whatever it may be. I don't like late people. It's always fine to be early. It's never okay to be late. Having said that, being early is good, but being early by more than 15-20 minutes, that is starting to hint at maybe this person isn't as good at time management as they should be. If you're that early, wait outside. Don't announce yourself yet. Wear a suit. It's never bad to overdress. It's always bad to underdress. I've had too many situations where students fresh out of school were so worried about their appearance. This is my personality. If they don't like me like this, they shouldn't hire me. And that means for the guys, yes, you should shave. Yes, I shouldn't smell you. And these sound like really obvious things to say, but they didn't make this slide out of thin air. These are all things that I've seen happen in the past. So unless you're being told explicitly, do not wear a suit, wear a suit. Be neat, be clean. You're interacting with people, and those people would like to remember you positively. As you walk in, make sure you introduce yourself to everyone in the room, or if you're on a video call, make sure you take the time to introduce yourself to the group as a whole. Make sure that I have your latest resume. That means that you shouldn't expect me to have a hard copy. Of course I will, but having one ready for me to go, preferably on fancy paper, shows me that you are taking this position seriously. and that you are prepared. Now, this is an important one, and this is an important one because I see many students do this. Be ready to be asked about everything on your resume. If you list C as a skill, I'm going to ask you about C. I'm going to ask you about pointers, double pointers, pointer dereferencing, memory allocation schemes, dangling pointers. I'm going to ask you about buffer overflows. I'm going to ask you about the difference between the heap and the stack, all of those things. You list it as a skill, I can ask about it. And that means that if you're just taking a class and you're like, yeah, I saw SQL or SQL, okay, then you better be ready to talk about it if you put it on your resume. And that means that in the lead up to this interview, you should have been practicing those skills in those afternoon sessions. Don't just list stuff because you've read them in a textbook somewhere. Be only listing the things that you're ready to talk about and that you feel comfortable with talking about in detail. Don't cry. I've had interviews where people start crying. It's okay to be emotional, but you also want to make sure you sell yourself professionally. Afterwards, thank us. We took the time to talk to you. We are doing you a favor. You're not doing us a favor. But ask for our contact details. Ask when you can follow up with us. Ask how we would prefer to be followed up with. Because that's an important one. Because you're going to walk out that door and then you're going to sit there and not hear from us for a while. Maybe. How long are you not going to hear from us? When is no news good news and when is no news bad news? When can I reach out? Obviously not within the same day or the next day to ask how's it going. But what you can do is send us a brief thank you email. Maybe the next day, get onto our eyeballs again and make sure again that email is up to all of those standards as well. Now, if you've done well and you've made it through the interview, now we're ready. Now we start talking about what it means to work for us, what offer we can make you, if any, and then we go on from there. But take finding a job as a job. It's that simple.